It's interesting, and with that, I wanted to say, there is a looming labor battle coming in the MLB where I don't think they're going to come to an agreement before December 1st, 2026. We're probably going to see our second lockout since the time you and I started actually covering the team, up there in Arlington. So, what are your thoughts on the possibility of maybe a second lockout in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, that would be unprecedented for any sport, but it seems like it's somewhat looming and the main thing sticking point seems to be the salary cap or lack thereof. The players don't want a salary cap to optimize pay. The owners do. The commissioner certainly does. Um, it's interesting. I don't I don't really know where I stand on the idea of a salary cap. That's a little above my pay grade. I think that look, summing up the whole thing, I would say more of this is like you have to spend to win, right? Like that's what you have to do. If you're not willing to spend money in free agency, whether that's A, signing players like the Dodgers are, or B, retaining your own players. Look at someone like Wyatt Langford, for example. If he becomes the player that we think he's going to be, he's going to hit free agency and demand a massive contract. And the Rangers are going to have to pay up and they're going to have to outbid the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets and the big market teams to land him if they're in on him. We saw them. That's what they did with Corey Seager. They outbid the Dodgers, the Yankees. Like you have to do that to win. And so I think per se more, it's on the owners. If you're an MLB owner, you got to spend to win. And I don't think you can fault the Dodgers for spending that money that you mentioned because look, you're trying to put the best team on the field every year, and that's what they're doing. The deferrals, I understand that's frustrating. That's such a large sample size thing. Like that could bite them in the butt. We don't know yet, right? So it's you gotta do what you gotta do to win, and they're doing that, and, it's gonna be really interesting to see who caves on the salary cap issue.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I wasn't saying that's a bad thing. Like the Dodgers, like you said, they wanted to win. They had the money, they spent it. There's no law against spending that money if you have it. The Rangers are proof that you can spend a good amount of money, go over the luxury tax, and still not win. That's what happened to them in 2025. They spent the money, they had the coach, they had Bruce Bochy. They just couldn't do it again after 2023. And the Rangers did spend money in 2021 and did wind up winning the World Series in 2023. So it did pay off. All those big contracts they got in 2021, 2022, bringing in Evaldi, bringing in DeGrom, bringing in Seager, bringing in Simeon, it did work out. They won the World Series. And like you said, I think Wyatt Langford's going to demand probably over 50 a year when he hits free agency. If he turns into who we think he's going to, he's going to be a 50 plus a year player unless they put salary caps in place before he gets there, which for him would be a real bummer.
Yeah. No, that would definitely be a bummer, and he could, like, with the way contracts are, like, and the way it says, like, it's always gonna go up and up and up and up and up, right? Like, that's just how it is, and, yeah, to your point, like, you gotta spend smartly, though. Like, I look at the Dodgers, and there's so much talk about the spending, and yes, they did spend on Ohtani. There's only one Ohtani, but look at, like, players they're so good at drafting and developing. Look at, like, Will Smith. Look at, like, Max Muncy was a no one. Look at, like, there's so many guys that they draft and develop. Sure, they did spend, but like, you've got to do both. You've got to do a good mix of both. And I think the whole talk of the Rangers ownership is cheap, and we hear that so many times. I
Yeah.
don't think that's fair. I think
No.
right now to explain this offseason, I just think that the what contracts are winning, the shorter term, high AAV contracts with a lot of opt outs, and that's just not a speed that the Rangers are wanting to play, and that's not a speed that a lot of teams are wanting to play. Because why do you think every time there's a big free agent, Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Reds, like that, those are the teams that want to play in that market and feel comfortable with it. Well, the Rangers, like a lot of other teams, just don't, and I think that's totally fair. Like you don't want to spend a lot of money on a guy, and he has to opt out after the first year, and it's like, okay, well, if we don't win the World Series this year, then that investment goes by the wayside. Like you don't always want to do that, and so I just think that Rangers ownership being cheap is not. I mean, we saw them stay above the luxury tax last year at the deadline to try to win. Like they want to win now. Obviously, they didn't go out and get a bat, and we can sit here and argue that they should have,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
But I think the Rangers ownership is more than okay with spending, more than okay with being the luxury tax if they know they're gonna have a good product on the field.
Yeah, I think you're right with that 100%.